So all this goes towards Europe, and the Knights Templar bring the knowledge back, maybe even bringing the Ark back, using the Ark to charge water around Europe. For instance, they found now that under the Chartres Cathedral, that was the first Gothic cathedral in Europe, that waterways up to 100 feet under the cathedral were diverted to culminate at the altar in the middle of the cathedral, which would be the place where the Templars would have placed the Ark. Then we find all sorts of legends of miraculous water in Europe, in France especially, in all these regions. Waterways are found to have been diverted under many of these chapels and cathedrals all around the France region. So maybe they charged the water with the Ark, maybe they used it to help build various amazing cathedrals around Europe. And then eventually the Knights Templars become very powerful very rapidly. They are called the bankers of Europe. They have very large influence on many levels in the European market and in the European politics. And it becomes threatening to the King of France and to the Pope of the time.
On Friday the 13th, in the month of October, 1307, King Philip IV and Pope Clement V initiated a campaign against the Templars and began to capture, torture, and kill thousands of members of the order under the premise of being devil worshippers, homosexuals, and heretics, thereby allowing for the seizing of all their assets and money. It is said, however, that just prior to King Philip's arrest order, the temple treasure, most likely the Ark, was spirited away in a hay wagon.
Some Templars were able to escape in surrounding countries by bringing with them their knowledge and maybe at the time the Ark of the Covenant. Some escaped to Germany, some escaped to England and Scotland, and maybe some to Switzerland. At the same time, then, in history, we see these new orders emerging. Some are called Rosicrucians orders, and some are the very famous Freemason orders that emerge out of Scotland. These orders are the same orders as the Knights Templars orders. They are just the Knights Templars under new disguise. They're using these orders at the time to continue to propagate the information, and that's where we find a lot of information of magical taluses and geometry and all this that comes from those Middle Age, Dark Ages, where the information becomes underground and becomes magical and really birthed the myth of the magical property of engineering and mostly of geometry. Jumping ahead, because the details are too overwhelming, those pieces of information move throughout the ages and eventually ends up in the Americas, in the new land, the newfound land, and these powerful people that organized the Americas, that organized what was to become the United States, are Freemasons, and they have all this information, all this baggage with them, and they bring it into our world. And you can see how they developed this new world with these concepts in mind. If you look at the monuments in Washington, you see all of these geometries, all this information, this esoteric information that actually pertains directly back to the power of the Ark of the Covenant, but that by then is thought to be very esoteric and very magical. However, in both the Freemasons order and the Rosicrucian order, the highest level of initiation is still to this day to bow in front of the Ark of the Covenant, to be in the presence of the Ark of the Covenant. May it be a mock Ark of the Covenant at this point. The implication of this information is very present throughout the history even of the United States of America. The forefathers setting up the society under those very specific geometric dynamics, and then even the documentation being embedded with all of the information pertaining to this higher knowledge, to this knowledge of the geometry of space, of the structure of the vacuum, of the advanced technology that I believe the Ark of the Covenant was. We find it even on the $1 bill. If you look at a $1 bill, you'll find on one side that there is a pyramid there. A pyramid that's composed of 13 different levels of stones, 13 being the 12 vectors of the vector equilibrium with the singularity, the 12 around 1, with the eye, the all-seeing eye on the top that we saw in the presentation as a representation of the structure or of the vacuum, or even the representation of the power of the ark, the celestial power. On the other side, we see a crest composed of 13 little stars, making a star, six-pointed star, Star of David structure, with 12 around 1 again, describing the dynamics of the structure of the vacuum. All these hints, all this information is present everywhere in the documentation of the United States, in the documentation of many of the countries around the world, and actually is prevalent in our world, underlying many of the efforts of our world to raise to new level of consciousness and to new level of technology and to new relationship with our universe.